Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Buckle up, beauties. Today's guest is bringing the raw, the real, and radically empowering vibes to the show. Michelle Bateman is a confidence and clarity coach who went from bitter, burnt out mom ready to smother her husband, her words, not mine, to building a soul-led business that helps women remember just who the hell they are. Of course, she's on the show. Born to Jamaican parents in Ontario, raised in Alberta, Michelle's journey wasn't the fairy tale she imagined, but it was the initiation of a powerful transformation. When life cracked her open, she didn't just heal, folks, she rose. Now, the founder of Soul Journey, Michelle helps coaches and practitioners ditch the confusion and step into aligned, authentic badassery because, well, no woman deserves to feel as lost as she once did. So let's dive into this bold, beautiful ride with my guest, Michelle Bateman. Hey, Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Wow, that was quite the intro.
Well, I like giving great intros.
Love it.
I've noticed that many of my clients, my friends, and even myself, sometimes we forget how awesome we are.
That was a good reminder.
Right. So yes, I like to use that as a reminder. So I often open the show with inviting my guests to just talk about what they think their definition of badassery is and or why they're a badass. So what are you going to say?
I actually don't even know. I was like, let's just see where that goes. I could say the easy things that would be top of mind of like, I went through divorce, pregnant with a 3-year-old daughter. That was freaking life rocking and hard. And I somehow kept it all together and kept going and raised my 2 beautiful daughters. And then I decided to try to get married again. And that was even worse than the first time. And so that was the one I wanted to smother. I didn't do it, but it was my wake up call. And so, those big moments that are really hard that, rock you to your core, I would say are pretty badass moments of, that I was able to do that and do it fairly well when I look back in hindsight. But what I think is even more so now is leaning into those parts of myself that I disowned, that I didn't love, that I felt was too much, and embracing that and loving that. And that's where I think there's so many of us that struggle with those parts of ourselves that we were told that we're too much and we're not enough. And I was always that very big emotional child, and I'm still that emotional woman. And I just had a really emotional conversation today. But I allowed myself to just be, and that was okay. That I didn't have to make it, that I had to be strong and I had to be tough.
Okay. Can I just honor you in this moment? Because it's not, folks, what she's just described, giving ourselves permission to be, whether it's angry, sad, disappointment, feeling shame, feeling joy, feeling horny, feeling happy, feeling anything. What is the human experience? And it's coming up a lot with my clients. And interestingly enough, one of my dear friends, we were just talking about this. She's a grief coach. And she is talking about and creating programs that allow women to recognize the need to simply be. And there is such badassery in allowing yourself to be. So I want to thank you. Not that there's definitely a story behind two marriages and all of that, the leaving and all of the questions and the challenges that brings up. But I really appreciate where you're going to take this conversation because, well, I think let's be real. It's the nooks and crannies of our lives that hold the magic. Too often we celebrate the big achievements or the big challenges. But I think it's kind of badass to just say, you know what? Yeah, I actually am okay with admitting this part of me or viewing this part of me. So would you be willing to share some of those parts? or
Yeah.
even
Whew. Um, I love that you brought up grief. And, as a coach, when I first started, it was about moving through the grief and reframing things and being more positive and finding the gratitude. And as my practice deepened and the things that I went through have like rocked my world in the last 5 years, I realized that there was a part that we were disowning of really feeling and sitting with those parts of ourselves that are grieving, that are sad, that are lonely, that feel betrayed, that are doubting ourselves, that are not forgiving ourselves. It's all of those uncomfortable parts that we were kind of taught to either bypass and not feel at all, or just like quickly move through to the other side. But if we move through too quickly, we don't honor and give space to feel this. And even as a coach, I struggle. This is probably the first podcast I've ever cried on. Whew. And that's where the courage is to be able to sit with those parts of ourselves that hurt so deeply and not run and not shame that little girl inside.
yes, 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 in all caps. If I could put this in all caps, I would. And it's so interesting because I just finished one of my first masterminds that I've just introduced. It's called the Trinity transformation, and real short, real simple. I believe I talk about the Trinity within, and no, not the Catholic Trinity, if there's such a one, because I'm not a Catholic, but we talked a lot about the shadow queen, the one that was told you're too much, shut up, you're too much. Of course, the inner critic that most of us are very familiar with. And thirdly, our divine guide. So I talk about the three of them. And what came up quite a bit with the participants in this first cohort was they felt uncomfortable at first, even voicing that part of them felt ugly, right? Or that there was a part of them that they thought was just mean. And to your point, there is freedom in seeing that part of us and witnessing them. Like, you feel mean. Yeah, that was kind of a bitchy thing that you said to me. I said to me, but it's okay. Like, I'll just sit with it. And of course, we can go deeper and figure out where that person came from or where that part of us came from. But it's incredibly brave to admit that often we have been pretending, right? I see that a lot with clients, and I'm not guilty. I'm aware of that in myself as well, right? And sort of a need for safety.
Yeah. And when you're the one leading everybody, then I feel like I should have it all together and I shouldn't struggle and I shouldn't hurt. And I know that's not true. And I know, the things that I've been through is what helps my clients really relate the most. And it's really sometimes really hard to sit in this and admit those parts to yourself, first of all, and then to admit them out loud in front of the whole wide world when this comes out, is extremely vulnerable and scary. But I think that's where the most badass courage comes from, is being able to sit in that space, because it's super uncomfortable.
And here's the thing, and guys listening, I know you're going to agree with me. We have all been taught, not just as women, but I think our society in general, we have been taught that it's bad to feel badly. Right? Get over it. Oh, come on, just move on. There's worse people in the world. You've got it so easy. What are you complaining about? And so we quite naturally have hidden that. Oh, I shouldn't go there. I shouldn't go there. And so it's quite new to have somebody say, oh, no, go there. I'll hold your hand. I'll witness you're going there. So yeah, it's a very powerful state to be in, to just sit with. And one of my mentors, when I was getting certified as a mastery method coach, Alyssa Nabriga, was sharing very eloquently that the only way to navigate pain and grief is to love the pain and grief. And we do that first off by just witnessing it. And I remember sitting there going, okay, you know what? I fucking paid money for this course. I don't want to witness my pain. I want to learn how to make money as a coach. Like, what the fuck? Right? I was such an idiot.
I
But
remember going to Sedona on a solo trip and healing all my stuff, and one of the coaches is like, Michelle, you need to feel it to heal it. And I was like, can't we just slap some affirmations on it and keep going? Like, come on. we'll just find some gratitude. I'll just grab some crystals and let's keep going. And he's like, doesn't work like that.
It's called spiritual bypassing, folks. I have a lot of episodes on that. And
Yeah.
it's such an easy thing to fall into, this idea that, oh no, everything's happening for a reason. It's all
Yeah.
good. I got
I'll
this.
just be grateful. Yeah.
I'm so happy and grateful that, and you're crying as you say it because you're like, I'm not happy and grateful. I'm furious, right? I'm sick with anger or worry or disappointment. Okay. Whew. So now the world knows that Michelle and Mahara have both experienced major spiritual bypassing. But at the same point, it is a recognition where we are today that there are parts of us that are just so fucking beautiful. And it's okay, whatever dress that girl is wearing, whatever hat she's wearing at the moment, it's all part of the human experience. Let's talk about, I introduced you as a clarity coach, clarity and confidence coach. But can you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on the importance of clarity and confidence and how they play into creating a beautiful life for your clients?
Mm-hmm. There's so much talk about self-love, but how do you love a person you don't even know who you are? Right. So we have to know, who am I? And who am I is not my role as a mother, a wife, my job, my career, the things outside of me that we define ourselves with. It's who am I on the inside, underneath all of that, those tender spots, those parts that, I'm afraid to show the world. That's really who I am at my core. But if I don't know enough, I'm not connected to that part of myself, I don't even know how to begin to create a life I love because I don't even know what I love. And I remember when my kids were getting older, and I had a friend, and he's like, Michelle, your kids are getting older now. And if you don't get a life of your own, you're going to be a crazy cat lady. And I was like, oh, God, he's right. Because my whole life revolved around my kids. My identity was being a mom. And we're taught, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're your job, and that's who you are. And I didn't know what to do with my time when my kids weren't around. I was so lost because I had lost my own identity. And so it was rediscovering, who is Michelle? What does she love? What lights her up? What does she value? What's most important? I couldn't go and create anything without any of that clarity. It's like trying to get to a destination without an address. Like your Google Maps would be like, I don't know where you're trying to go. You need to tell me, then we can get there. So that clarity is so, so, so important in our own life so that we can have proper boundaries, we can have, proper relationships and agreements because we know what's most important to us and what we value. And if you value family but you're a workaholic, then you're out of alignment with yourself. So in that clarity, that's when you can come into alignment with yourself and create a life that matches what's on the inside. But so many people are like dying on the inside because their life on the outside is so out of whack to what they really truly want. And that's where burnout comes from. And that's where midlife crisis come from, where people wake up and they're like, I have all the things and I'm not happy.
I know that very well. I was one of those people. I never had burnout, but I have told the story before, so I'll make it real quick. But I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I had a wake up call when I realized I was working for somebody else's dream at the detriment of my family. I ignored my daughter late at night watching TV. My youngest was with me and my laptop was beside me. I heard the ding of an email and I turned away from her mid sentence as she was talking to me. And I opened up my laptop and I answered the email. And I'm so grateful that I raised this beautiful warrior because when I turned back to her, and she would have been about 13 or 14 at the time, I turned back to her and she had a scowl on her face and she's like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, what? I literally had no idea why she was so upset with me. And she's like, I was talking to you and you turned your back on me, mother, something like that. And I was
Yeah.
shamed. In that moment, it was like I just had a download from God. Mahara, what are you doing? Like you did not need to do that. And look at the hurt that you've caused. So that was the beginning of my wake up call that I was tired of pretending that I loved the life I had created. Loved my family, did not love the work, did not love that I had given so much to the work in exchange for a good dollar, right? In exchange for the money, the worth that I put on earning a good income was.
And even just our presence, like our presence is so important. I just had this conversation at lunch of like, you were physically there, but your presence was not there. and that feeling of disconnect, of like loneliness, being with someone that's not actually there with you, is really painful. And we've all done it.
We absolutely have. We absolutely have. So being aware and of what's important to you really is one of the first steps. And it's interesting because sometimes I've got clients that are like, what do you mean when you say values, Mahara? And I'm like, well, what do you care about? What's important? And I've had many clients go, I don't even know how to answer. And I'm like, wow, okay. All right, we're going to start from ground zero here.
Right? Because we're so disconnected from ourselves, and we're so connected to devices and the internet and all of these distractions that we have no idea who we are, what we stand for, what we value. And when you know that, everything in your life changes. And, I think of the relationships that I had when I had no clarity, and then the relationships that I created when I knew who I was and what I stood for and what I valued. I was able to attract a completely different relationship because I had so much clarity that I could articulate to someone, here's who I am, here's what I stand for, here's what I need and want, here's my non-negotiables. Are you in? Are you out? Like literally that simple. And it was like, oh, I stand for all of that too. My boxes and your boxes, they're all the same. Let's do this. Oh, okay, cool. That was easy. Instead of like trying to figure it out in months or years, or some people never figure it out and they just go through the motions. But that depth, that connection, that feeling to each other, to self, to source, to nature, all of those things are missing.
And that's a big piece. That's a big piece to miss out on. I know when I first started doing this work, I like to write. So I wrote a lot of quotes and I just wrote and continue to write a lot. But one of the quotes that I came up with, I remember thinking, oh my God, this quote has changed everything for me. Because of course, what I come up with is I need for me first, right?
Right. Always.
Always. And the quote, I hope I get it right. It's been a while since I've read it or written it, but I think the quote says, teach the world your worth by first acknowledging it. And that was a hard one for me because, of course, I was so disconnected. I didn't know what my worth was. I thought my worth was earning, over six figures a year and having a nice house and, all of those things. Being a certain weight. I used to work for Weight Watchers, full disclosure, and I was tied up in the weight loss industry. So that was a tough one for me to embrace and or live out, but I'm good with it now, right? Hence the podcast, The Art of Badassery, hence the spin-off podcast, Mindfucks with Mahara. Whew, that was, I know she's laughing.
Oh, let's do that one next because I got a lot of those to talk about.
It was so interesting. I wanted to rebrand my second podcast because it was just way too sappy. Just wasn't me. And somebody suggested that name. I was in a group mastermind with someone. And I'm like, are you insane? Do you honestly think I could ever swear on he's like, fuck yeah, that's you all over. And so anyway, it took me a couple of weeks to have the nerve to do it. And this is actually a really funny story, if you'll indulge me for a minute. I did all the artwork, I launched it, I rebranded it, and I didn't tell anyone except my children who are very, funky. And all my clients knew, but I did not tell my husband or my mother-in-law because I'm like, they don't swear and there's no way I'm going to get away with I just can't go there. So I thought I was being real tricky dicky, right? Because I'm like, my husband, he doesn't watch anything I do. He's so used to me doing this, he's whatever. And then one day I was doing the dishes and I got a notification that somebody had posted and had mentioned Mindfucks with Mahara and my name in a post. So I got a ding about it, I was tagged in it. And I'm reading it and I'm like, oh my God, somebody listened to Mindfucks, created a video feedback on it, just saying this is the best podcast ever and loved it. It was so authentic. And I was so excited. And my husband hears me getting excited and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh my God, got a great review on my podcast. And they did an audio and a video. And he's like, awesome. He goes, let me see. And I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, I can't show it to him. Now what am I going to do? So I ignored him for half an hour. Finally, he says, are you going to show it to me or what? So I said, okay. So I handed him my phone and he's looking at it, this big Mindfucks with Mahara. And he's like, what is this? I said, oh, my rebranded podcast. And he's like, why is why is the mind fuck so big and the Art of Badassery, because it's hosted by the Art of Badassery, so small? Don't you think the Art of Badassery should be bigger than the mind fucks with Mahara? And I'm like, pull on your big girl panties, Mahara. And I'm like, nope, that's the way I want it. And that's the way it's staying. And he's like, okay, wow, aggressive what? So anyway, I laugh because despite my ability to come up with that and to do it, I was still, part of me was scared. I didn't want to,
Hiding.
and I still haven't told my mother-in-law. So,
Well,
you know,
baby
we
steps.
we do what we can with what we have in the moment. But
Right.
wrapping this all back up to this idea of understanding what's important to us. I realized fairly recently in the last 6 months that I'm so tired of pretending that I don't swear. I swear, people. I very rarely swear in anger because I'm not an angry person. So it's not the angry, hurtful swearing.
It's the articulation.
Yes. Well, I mentioned this in the intro, but Michelle's parents are Jamaican and I'm Jamaican. So you know what? We swear as a matter of course, and we're really damn funny with it. So I grew up there. So I'm very confident that I can swear and make you laugh. It's not meant
See, I
to.
grew up the opposite. There was never a swear word in my house, ever, ever. Nope. And so I swore for a little bit, then I didn't swear at all. And then I ended up in containers with coaches that swore all the time. And so, yeah, it just kind of comes out now and then. And I'm mindful of, the audience and where I am, but there's certain things that just get articulated a little bit more when you add that extra word. And someone said, it used to be what the fuck. But then when you say what the actual fuck, that just takes it to the next level of like,
It's true. That's very true. Well, here's the thing. Language is powerful, peeps. I talk about this all the time on whatever shows I'm on or there. So I invite people to get very curious about the language they use. And
mhm.
hearing to me is just another component of that. That's all. It's just another component. And to your point, we do want to know our audience because, that's just responsible.
Mhm.
What I don't like seeing though is having people take the easy route and just swear because they're swearing for swearing's sake. Like if there's nothing to back up the argument, for example.
Yes. It's not articulate, it's just in there all the time. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just going to say something about it when I forgot.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
It'll come back. Yeah.
Who do you most work with?
I mostly work with women who are spiritual entrepreneurs. Not all of them, but most of them. They're in the conscious realm of knowing that they have a purpose that they're here to live out, that there's something that they've been through in their own journey. And now they want to share it with the world. And so helping them get clear on what is that? How do I message it? How do I say it? How do I communicate that to the world? And what I see happen is once I can help them get clear on their messaging, their confidence goes way, way up. Because when they're in the middle of it, if I don't know how to say it and I don't know really what to do and how to do all that, that's when they hide and play small. But once we really dial in the messaging and they're clear and they're like, that's it. Now I feel confident I can share it. I don't need to hide. I can start putting myself out there. And so, really helping them get the clarity, which creates the confidence, which then creates the action of them putting their passion and their purpose out into the world. And then watching the ripple effect of that is just so freaking fulfilling and amazing. And I originally started life coaching, and then the business coaching just kind of happened. I have a marketing and graphic design background, plus I took a whole lot of sales training and all of those things. So I combined that all to create my Soulful Impact Business Academy that walks entrepreneurs through step by step in setting up their business, their messaging, their offers, all of those things that they can launch it with confidence. And once they have the ability to have the clarity around all of that, it just makes it so much easier for them to move forward and take the action and put themselves out there and start creating the impact that they want to have in the world. So that's what I really love. But it was never initially the plan that I was going. But what I was going with is I thought the life coaching and the mindset stuff was one avenue. And then there was the business coaching, but they're intermingled all the time because we're always working through our mindset stuff and our limitations and our fears and our uncertainties in our business. And so really seeing that they go together hand in hand. And often in our business calls, someone's crying, someone's working through some really deep blocks and those fears and those uncertainties that often root back to childhood. So, it is coaching, it's business training, it's all of that in a very conscious, spiritual, aligned, authentic way of expressing yourself in the world. And that's the work that I love to do.
Sounds amazing. And I'm just, you know, in hindsight, right? Hindsight is 50-50. When I think of, I had 4 years trying to figure this all out on my own. I mean, I was part of some containers and I did, I took various courses online for various things, but I would have loved to have been in a container that sort of encompassed all of those, because that's actually where I've ended up, right? I've ended up with a very spiritual undertone to everything that I do. I call myself a success alchemist, and successful women tune into their intuition and really recognize, listen to, and become friends with their Trinity, right? The shadow queen, their inner critic, and their divine guide. So I've come full circle to a place where I'm very comfortable with now. But it did take 4 years of WTF.
Right.
And I'll never forget, I had created a whole business around helping. I wanted to help business women that were like executives that weren't very comfortable with their lives. And when a mentor asked me why I chose that group, I'm like, oh, that niche. I said, oh, because they can afford me. She's like, I'm sorry, you're niching based on your assumption on who can pay you. And I'm like, yes, isn't that how you're supposed to do it? Right. I just so misaligned. It's not even funny. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I get it. So yeah. I have done everything backwards. Let's put it that way. But
right. And that's where that clarity comes into, because you can't bring anything to into alignment with yourself without that clarity. So your business needs to be you, and everything needs to be in alignment, and that authentic expression of that, and giving ourselves permission to own that of, I do swear this is who I am. And, I have some clients who I love that part of them, that's just authentically who they are. And they're like, take it or leave it. This is me. And that's what the world needs, is our unapologetic versions of who we actually are, true to our core. And we were talking about the swearing. If you are on the personal growth journey and you don't feel the need to swear at your life sometimes, I'm not sure what you're doing, because there are days where I'm like, kidding me again? Like, seriously, we're looping this again? It's not for the faint of heart. And so that word just needs to come into it sometimes, because it's a journey.
Yeah, 100%. But here's the question. And if you can share some examples, how did you learn to give yourself that permission?
Oh, in the mess, in the trenches, in the bawling my eyes out, sitting in the corner of a room, falling completely apart. And this last year was definitely a deeper layer of all of that falling apart, because I wasn't listening to my intuition. I wasn't following my gut. And that was such a big gut punch wake up call this last year of, I had this knowing, and I let spiritual ideas, I let other people talk me out of it. I did everything to turn myself inside out, to go against what my body was trying to tell me. You know what, Michelle, it's not really spiritual, for you to do that. You should be more accepting and less conditional and more accepting. And so I literally, and I want to like throw up thinking about it, turned myself inside out. When my gut was like, this is not okay with us, like not for a second. And turns out I was right all along. And I had some really uncomfortable phone calls from women that confirmed what I was struggling with for so long. And on one hand, it was gut wrenching. On the other hand, it was validating of, I was right all along. And now I know that I can trust that knowing no matter what. And I don't have to get anybody else to agree with it. I don't have to get anyone else to like it. It is my truth, and I get to own that, and nobody else.
So good. Good. And I mean, that's what we all aspire to. And I'll be honest, there have been much of my life, and I'm in my late 50s, where I wouldn't have understood what you just said to me. Maybe even 5 years ago, I would have gone, what the fuck? What's this girl? What are you talking about? But I absolutely understand you now. So, folks listening, if this is resonating with you, please just take a breath and know that you're not alone.
Yeah, we have that knowing for a reason and we doubt it. And I was at a retreat one time and they talked about trusting our body. And I just had this moment of guilt and shame come over me of thinking, how many times have I seen and how many times did I force my kids into a situation where they didn't want to be in? Like how many times it's like, go give Auntie Sarah a kiss, and the whole kid's like, no. And we force them to discount their own bodies knowing of I don't want to do this, and they're made to do it anyway. And we're like, no wonder no one knows what their intuition is, because parents overrode that in their children over and over and over again, and we have for generations. And I just felt so sick in that moment. I'm like, oh, we dismiss that. So of course we don't trust our own knowing, because when we said we didn't want to do something, we were made to do it anyway. So what do we know? We just need to trust somebody else knows better than me.
And I think, I'm a parent, I have two grown children, but I remember what it was like just looking at them going, I've gone through so much shit. Can you just cut me a break and do what I ask? I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I really don't. I just want you to do what I say because
Yeah.
I need that measure of control right now. I need to feel like I'm right.
Yeah.
And I've said to my kids on multiple occasions, you guys are so lucky I don't drink. I do because I'm so angry right now. I could just throw you across the room quite happily.
Right.
They're like,
And nobody talks about that either, right? That's the shame we live with, that it is one of the hardest jobs in the world with no instruction. And I've apologized to my kids so many times for so many things I was unaware of at the time, but I wish now I could have said, like, not that kids have the right to decide everything, because there's some things they don't have awareness around, but to be like, what feels right for you? Like, what do you think is the right choice? Instead of, I'm the parent and I know, and I'm just going to tell you, of really giving them the ability to check in with themselves and start deciding what might be best with some guidance. And it doesn't mean they can always execute that, but even just getting them in that conversation of what do you feel and what do you need? And does that feel right for you?
yeah. Hardest job in the world. It's funny you say that because one of the chapters in my first book, when I say chapter, I mean story. It wasn't a chapter, it was just one little story.
Yeah.
Talks about how courageous it is to be a mom and that it's the hardest job out there. And another part of the book, I reference the one and only time I got a spanking from my mom. And it was a big aha for me for lots of different reasons, more so as an adult when I think back to it. But when my mom was reminded of that a few years ago, well, even before I wrote the story, she was devastated and she was sobbing, a 75-year-old woman sobbing and asking for my forgiveness because she spanked me.
Mm.
Heart wrenching. And now that I'm a parent, I understand where that grief came from. First of all, I totally understand the frustration. I was a little bitch. I stuck my tongue out at her. I was yelling at her, and I was like 3 or 4. I mean, it was ridiculous. And she just picked me. She was holding my hand, and I was sticking my tongue out at her, and she just lifted me up and walloped me on my ass. And it wasn't, I mean, she was shocked. I was shocked. I cried even harder. I went in, I ripped up my cards, my little deck of cards. I got sent to my bedroom. Major trouble, like drama in the house. And all these years later, it affected her
Mm.
to know that she had done that. Truthfully, it affected her, I think, more than it did me.
Wow.
So I'm not quite sure how we got on that topic, other than it's tough being a mom, no matter
It
what.
is tough being a mom. And I was that really emotional child that had meltdowns all the time, just super, super sensitive. And everything was so overwhelming to me. And I now see that my parents didn't do a whole lot of emotions. So here's this like super unregulated emotional little roller coaster of energy. I was a Leo. I was super strong willed. Like I was a force as a child, and I got in trouble a lot for it. And I remember just feeling so bad that I was always in trouble and I was too much and I was hysterical. And my whole life, the stories that was told about my childhood was always around me being too emotional, too much, all of these things. And so I carried so much shame. And when I would cry and I didn't want to, I hated that part of me, like hated it. I couldn't stop it if I wanted to. And I felt so out of control. And even just crying today at the beginning of this show was really uncomfortable because that's just how I'm wired. And when I feel like I can't stop that or be in control of that, it's still really hard for me.
Yeah. Well, as I said at the start of the show, I really honor you for your vulnerability and for your courage in going there. And my one of the hopes that I have is that we get to a place, our society, where we recognize the gift that tears actually are, right? It's a beautiful expression of whatever that needs to come out. There's a reason that the body cries. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and this is what I was talking to my friend about earlier today, sometimes we cry and we don't know why. But when we can give ourselves permission to just do it, man, it's such an amazing release. It's totally badass, people, to give yourself permission to just cry and fucking cry or whatever comes out, right? Because
You talked about grief too, of like, shouldn't you just be over it? And I have that thought of like, okay, when is this grief going to end? Like, it's been long enough. I should be past it. I shouldn't be sad anymore. And, making a declaration to myself of like, that's it. I'm not talking about it anymore. I'm not feeling it. I'm not giving it any more energy. It's like, well, that's really great, Michelle, but we're still in here with a lot of stuff to feel and process.
I'll see you next week around 7 o'clock.
Right? Yesterday, bawled my eyes out of just layers of grief, and it is still here. And the more I try to push it away, the more it's like, all right, well, I'll just be back tomorrow. So you can either feel it and release it, or you can ignore it and pretend that I shouldn't be here. And I'm going to share this. Wasn't planning on it. So today would have been the anniversary with my fiance that I separated from a year ago. And so a lot of emotion around that and feeling like I should be over this, I should be moving on. And there were so many things that were so beautiful and then so many things that were so not beautiful. And so holding the polarity of both, of like grateful that I'm not in the stuff that wasn't great, but still mourning the loss of so much beauty and love that never got to be come to completion, I guess.
Holding some space for you. And what I'm hearing, not that we're jumping into a coaching moment here, folks, but really what I heard was we also grieve the possibility, the loss of the possibility, right? It's not just the stuff that we know for sure. These were the good things. But I think there's a part of us that mourns the loss of what could have been because little girls dream, no matter how old we are, we dream. I mean, Jesus, I have dreams, right? I've got such dreams, and I don't dream of George Clooney that much anymore because I'm happily married. But man, oh man, right? These dreams, they're so powerful. And when something happens and you see the death of that possibility, there's that whole level of grief as well. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense because I went from such a toxic, unhealthy, abusive relationship to one that was so beautiful and literally beyond my wildest dreams in so many ways. And so to see it, never in a million years did me or anybody that knew us would have seen that falling apart. And so it was a lot to sit with, the possibility of that. And it's funny that you say that. I can't believe I'm saying all of this right now. So I decided, I'm like, I'm going to try dating again. I think I can handle this. And literally right before I got home, I ended a dating relationship with someone that I had just started seeing. So literally just ended that on the anniversary of that. And now here I am sitting here. So hence why I probably cried.
Well,
And the possibilities again, right? Like it wasn't aligned and we saw that, but there was genuine care and connection and mourning the possibilities.
I remember when I was, must have been in my mid 20s, all I ever wanted was to be a mom. Didn't really care.
Oh, me too.
I just wanted to be a mom. And on another episode, we'll do a deep dive on past life regression because I know why this was so important to me in this lifetime. Anyway, I was dating somebody and I thought that I wasn't in love with the guy, but I kind of was getting ready to want to be married and think about that. And he broke up with me like he was a total jerk, and I was devastated. And I remember looking to my mom I wanted her to build me up and say, he's a loser. You're the best. What was he thinking? She didn't say any of that. She just said, maybe it's not meant to happen in this lifetime. And I remember looking at her thinking, you can't say that to me. Like, what? What does that mean? I'm not meant to be happy and have kids or get married and have kids. And she said, look, you may not fall in love and meet the man of your dreams in this lifetime, but it doesn't mean you can't have the best life ever. And I was still angry at her that she would not defend me to the death with this boy, this young man. But what was really beautiful was 2 weeks later, I met my husband.
Wow.
A year later, we were married. Or no, a year later, we were engaged. And then 4 months later, we were married. But anyway, I remember thinking, wait a second. What do you mean I may not find what I want in this lifetime, but I can still be happy? Well, I can't. Who's to think I could be happy without a man and babies, right? But once I sort of embraced that idea and let go of the need to prove my mom wrong, I met the guy I was meant to be with. So,
yeah.
Oh man, nobody said, or if they did, they were lying, that having a happy human life was easy, because I think that's just not true. I think there's a lot of work that goes into being happy, and that's okay, right? One of the things that I want to point out, and I think maybe relevant to our conversation, is the importance of emotions, right? We don't have them just for shits and giggles, right? They're not just something to write a poem about. Emotions are signposts to clarity, understanding why. So to your point, when we can give ourselves permission to just really get clear on what we're feeling, it can help us understand ourselves better, right? Why does that comment give me a bellyache? Why does that conversation make me want to run away and hide? What am I afraid of? What do I love? All of these things, our emotions help us with that. So the invitation, folks, if you haven't clued into it yet, is to tune into your emotions and be okay with that.
And I know one emotion that I struggled with is, don't be angry, right? I used to be really angry at a lot of things in my marriage. I felt bitter and ripped off and hated my husband and all the things. So I really worked to not be angry. What I realized was, in dismissing my allowing of healthy anger, I was betraying and ignoring the warning signals. Our anger triggers a boundary's been broken, an agreement, a value, something is out of alignment, and it's creating anger in me. And I need to listen to that or get curious, instead of just, just rainbows and unicorns and just have gratitude. And I'm just going to go journal and sit in the grass and connect with nature. And then I'm not going to be angry anymore. But why is that anger there? What is the message it's trying to tell you? And the work that I do with my clients is always tuning into every emotion, first with love and acceptance of, you're allowed to be here. I love you. You're welcome. And what are you here to tell me? What is the message? Because every emotion has a message for us. And if we can just give ourselves permission, and this is a good reminder for myself that I need to do this later. It's like, what is this emotion here to communicate to me? And when we can listen to that, that's when it doesn't get stuck. And that's when it can move through us, when we listen to it. It's kind of like our toddlers, when we're trying to go to the bathroom by ourselves, and the louder they knock on the door, the more we ignore them, the louder they get, right? But once we just acknowledge them, they're like, just love you, and they leave. And our emotions are kind of the same way. The more we ignore them, the louder they get.
So good. So good and juicy. And what I've noticed, and I don't know if you can relate to this, is that sometimes I'm angry. Let's say I'm having a discussion with my husband. I get very angry, and I assume he's angry too. He has no clue that I'm angry. He's not angry. He has no clue. And then I get angry that he's not angry. And I'm like, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I've made a huge deal out of it. Like, I'll storm out and I'll be upset and nervous and, come back in. And I'm like, he seems happy. Are you happy? Did we not just have a fight? He's like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, did I sniff glue and not realize it? Am I so caught up in this loop of angst and squeezing joy, some kind of joy out of the fact that I'm angry? I know that's not crazy people. I'm just very in tune with my emotions now, and I can recognize how silly they can be, especially I am projecting onto someone else and they're not willing to take it. Like, how
Yes.
do you not be angry? You should be angrier right now because I say you are, aren't you?
Right. And sometimes it can be lying, like we've got a false story in our head of what we think to be true. And the conversation I had at lunch with this gentleman that I was dating is he was in his man brain of thinking, doing, functioning, and I'm over here in my girly feeling brain. And I'm like, but he's like, but I was just doing the things. And I was like, but I wasn't feeling the connection. And so seeing that it was such a misunderstanding of just, men and women think and function differently and need and want different things. And it wasn't that I was right and he was wrong, or he was wrong and I was right. It was just, we were in different thought processes. And without having that conversation, of having understanding of where each other's coming from. Like I'm in my head making up a narrative, and now he's making up a narrative around the narrative that he thinks I'm making up. And it was just a giant mess.
Also known as a clusterfuck.
Yeah, clusterfuck. That was a good one. Yeah.
All right, Michelle, let's just bring this all together. First of all, can you say out loud how our listeners can connect with you? For anybody that wants to go a little bit deeper with this amazing work that you do, how can they reach you?
They can reach me on my website. So souljourney.co is my website. There's a contact us at the bottom. They can reach out that way. And then if they want to follow me on Facebook and sometimes Instagram, it's Michelle Bateman. And I think I have business pages that are Soul Journey Transformations, but gotta love the algorithms. Those don't get really shown very much. So it's usually my personal accounts that I mostly post on.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Folks, check the show notes. I'll have all of that in the show notes. But as we tie this up with a bow and bring this amazing conversation to a close, what are some tips that you have for women that are struggling to find clarity or feel like a badass in their own life?
I would say, who are you surrounding yourself with? Because we are the sum of the people we spend the most time with. And so are you around people that are tearing you down, that don't necessarily see your vision, that aren't lifting you up? When you can be around a community of women that are just honestly rallying for you and believe in you and see the best in you and speak that into your life, the way that you can flourish and grow is so much more powerful. And what was surprising to me is all the coaching work that I do, when we're in a group container, the container of the women in the community is equally as valuable as anything that I teach them. And so just being in that sisterhood, that community, that healthy environment will help you grow. It's like your plants, right? If it's in crappy soil or, in the shade and it's meant to be in the sun, it's not going to flourish and grow, and you're no different. So where are you feeling nurtured and fed and loved and lifted up in community? I would say is really important. Reaching out, having mentorship and guidance. I did not get it through all of this on my own. There's not a chance that I would even probably still be standing if I tried to do all of this on my own. So having guidance, having good friends, having people that you can confide in, and people that will tell you the truth. They're not just going to, tell you what you want to hear, but this often the things you don't want to hear and the things you don't want to face is where the biggest growth is. And then just trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone of, I don't know what I love anymore. So I'm just going to try a bunch of random things to see the things that I love and don't love. I never thought I would love facilitating at a nude goddess retreat. I was like, absolutely not. And I did it, and it was amazing. And I had so much fun. So you never know.
How did that not come up in the conversation?
It often comes up, but it didn't come up this time. We'll have to do a part 2 and I'll tell you that story.
Yeah, we're just going to have to do another one. But I want to thank you so much for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a beautiful day here in Alberta, and you could be outside hanging with the weather and your friends, but you chose to be here with me instead, recording. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank you for being so open with me today. And it was, there's people that need to hear that. So from my house to yours, thank you so much. And folks, thanks for joining us. The Art of Badassery. You think I could say that now? It's been 2 years, but thanks for joining us on The Art of Badassery. I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. And please like, subscribe, and give us some feedback on this conversation. We'd love to know your thoughts. Take care. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
If this episode lit a fire in your soul or smacked you with some needed truth, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, and share it with another badass who's ready to rise. And if you're done second guessing your intuition and want some clarity that cuts through the noise, Book your free intuitive strategy reading with me now. No fluff, I promise, no BS, just soul deep insight to help you move forward with power. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and for the love of God, stay badass.